This podcast shares stories inspired by real EMS events highlighting experiences of emergency medical service professionals. To respect patient privacy and comply with HIPAA regulations, all personal and medical information has been thoroughly redacted or replaced. Listener discretion is advised, and the content is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The creators of this podcast assume no responsibility for any actions taken as a result of information or stories provided. Thank you for your understanding and for joining us. My name is Sunny.
And I'm Nathan.
And let's dive into today's story. So there was a recent incident. Car A and Car B were drag racing down a street in the middle of the day, going about 100 miles an hour.
Oh my gosh.
Car A crashes into Car C and causes it to set on fire. Driver of Car B swerves and crashes into another vehicle, spins out, and crashes into a pedestrian on the street, killing the pedestrian. Both drivers from Car A and Car B pass away as well.
No way this is real.
It is.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Welcome to Egg and Bean Podcast, where we turn every story into a conversation. And inspired by today's story, we're going to dive into car accidents and illegal speeding. So the reason why we wanted to cover this topic today is both Nate and I have had our own personal experiences with car accidents, multiple, in fact. So we really care a lot about the topic of speeding and just, the overall ridiculousness of it and just how dangerous it is.
Yeah, it's really dangerous. It's really scary. Some of the scenes you pull up to.
And I think I'm sure both of us when we were younger, we would speed, right? I think when we first both got our licenses, we didn't understand like the magnitude of it. But especially maybe do this job and my personal experiences, I am terrified of it now.
Driving like a grandma down the highway now?
Yeah. And I mean, people have this like common misconception that ambulance drivers, or when we drive the ambulance, like we speed. No. We get there faster because we skip the red lights, right? So we're not sitting there waiting in traffic. However, the first per county, but you can only go 10 above speed limit. It's not a free for all to go 100 miles an hour down the road. So Nate, what are your thoughts on this story, on this call?
That's horrible.
Yeah.
First of all, because that guy that was just walking down the street, he had nothing to do with it.
Right.
And then
he's just taking a stroll.
Yeah, enjoying his day.
Probably going to get some food or something.
Or just finish eating food and like walking away the calories. Or something.
Yeah. And then it just happens.
I think that's very selfish on the driver's part.
It is your responsibility. I've always said this. When you drive a vehicle, you are operating a weapon. That
you are.
It's a weapon, right? You're driving this machinery at such speeds. There's a reason why these rules are in place. It's not just, these arbitrary rules of why speed limits exist, right? There's a reason for it.
There really is. And I think it's about 3,000 lives are lost every day because of car accidents.
Yeah. And it's insane how many car accidents are. I mean, the amount of traffic collisions on the freeway. I mean, there's in LA, there's a lot of cars, so that's why there's traffic. But how many times do you ever encounter traffic because of a traffic collision? It's like every day. It's every day.
And you kind of learn to notice the difference in traffic. You're like, oh, this is a car accident traffic.
Yeah, like right? And so it's something that affects the lives of many. Those are families that it's not just the people involved in the accident. There's a trickle effect down to everybody who's associated with that person, right? And I think it's your personal duty to understand that when you're driving anything, you're responsible.
Yeah.
You're responsible. That responsibility should be understood. Now, of course, right, we do feel for the lives that were lost Besides, all the lives that were lost in the accident, but I think specifically that pedestrian, and the family, the pedestrian's family. Yeah. Because like you said, y'all just walk down the street, a normal day, and just gone. Because someone decided to be reckless. And when you get when you get a driver's license, right? That's you saying you qualify, but also that you're responsible for your actions. Have you gotten in an accident because someone was speeding?
No. I've gotten into like really bad near misses.
Yeah, on the freeway, dude. Some of these people, like, you feel the whole car shake when they go by.
Yeah, from just the wind.
Oh my god,
it's crazy.
Yeah. Like, you gotta go so fast.
I've had where this guy was coming at least 90.
Yeah.
And there was like a small window of where he could like cut me off.
Yeah.
And he did. He risked it all just to get there faster.
It's insane because, have you ever like seen someone try to speed, especially on like a regular street, and you get to a red light and they're right next to you?
I make sure I look at them, make eye contact.
It's like because from the point when I saw you and you were speeding all the way to that red light, you risked a bunch of people's lives for you to be right next to me, even though I was going like 30 miles an hour down the street.
We're still in the same spot.
It's like really for real, right? Like, and my brother told me this once, and it really resonated with me. And he was like, well, when I'm late. If I'm late to something, like, and I'm standing at a red light, I don't freak out at the red light. Sometimes when you're late to something, you're standing at a red light, you get anxious. He's like, I don't get impatient. I don't get anxious. I don't try to speed because, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I make it there safely, and that's my responsibility at this point. Like, you accept your fate. You made your bed.
So smart.
Yeah. You chose to leave late. Right. So you still have that you choosing to be late and not taking the responsibility to get out of the house on time does not excuse and enable you to go out there and put other people's lives at risk. Right. Of course, people make mistakes. There are accidents where it's just mistakes, right? Accidents, whatever. Something happened. You didn't, see a car or blah, blah, blah. Of course, those happens, but those things happen. However, I would say that there are many accidents where it very much was preventable. Right. And someone was recklessly driving and that caused the accident. I think especially because I had like a really bad accident actually 2 days before I took the NREMT.
Nice.
Yeah, I got into my whole entire car was totaled 2 days before my NREMT. Ooh. Yeah. And that really, really made me nervous to drive. I didn't drive.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, I didn't drive anything for a couple months. And then the first thing I ever drove after that was an ambulance. And I was scared. When I tell you I was scared. Okay. When I tell you I was scared.
Well, you still get scared to drive the ambulance, right?
I'm better now, right?
Oh, you are?
But I think for me, it's like I think because I really embody that idea of I'm responsible for not just the people like on the road, but also the people that I'm driving, my partner, the patient, the medic, whoever is in the back, and myself, right? That's a lot of responsibility there, right? When you get in that car with someone, you are taking responsibility of their life. And that is not something that I understood when I first got my driver's license. And I think it's something that we should probably talk about more because I don't remember when I was learning how to drive that idea was ever told to me or like,
I think my parents did a really good job at instilling that into me, though.
I think my parents did, but it was more like, you be safe. But there was never like a conversation really about, hey, like who you're driving, you're also responsible for. You're responsible for other people who are driving on the road, like, to do what you need to do so you don't harm other people. What has been your experiences with car accidents?
So I've seen some pretty crazy ones. Right. I think one that impacted me the most is I was working at Disneyland at the time. Yeah. I had just gotten off of work. It was 3 a.m. And I was driving down the 5 freeway going home. In front of me, there was another car. We were both going 80. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I see that car just shrapnel, just boom.
Just explode into the air.
Apparently there's a drunk driver coming the opposite side.
Oh my
Or he was
God.
coming on our side, the wrong direction, hit that car. They were both going 80 head on. Both died on impact. And I had to slam on my brakes. So I think of myself very fortunate to not have been that car in front of me, because at that time, like, you don't have any moment to react, and his lights were off and he didn't see it coming.
That's for another conversation, right? You have reckless drivers, and then you have like the reckless drivers who are drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That in its I can't. That must have been so scary.
I didn't drive for like 2-3 weeks.
I would lose my mind, because that could have been you.
Yeah. I think that was like one of the few times that I went into like shock.
So wait, you pulled over?
I pulled over.
And then what happened after that?
Well, I called 911 and I told, this was before I was an EMT.
Yeah.
And I told them that I just witnessed an accident. I'm on the freeway.
Right.
And I was just explaining to them. It was kind of blurry for me though.
Because I'm sure you were just in shock. You didn't even know. You're probably just rambling like, accident come.
Yeah.
Like, help.
Hurry.
Yeah.
And I just remember just driving home in silence. And then I got home. My mom's like, what's wrong? And then I told her.
Yeah.
And that one like impacted me a lot.
Did this inspire you kind of, or, help your decision to become an EMT, or inspire you? I don't know. You get what I'm trying to say.
It was one of the few times where I saw that I was maybe capable of doing something. Right. Because I was able to call for help. Right. And like, even though I was like shaken up, like I was still able to do it. And I was like, maybe it is something I can do.
I think it's funny that you say that, because when I'm at work, I embody a very different mentality than when I'm outside. Right. So I've always thought about how I would, respond to something as a bystander versus on the job. Mm-hmm. And I've come to know that it's very different.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
right? It's weird. Like on and off switch.
Yeah. You like adopt this mentality as, an EMS professional, I guess, that just, at least for me, does not go home with me.
Yeah. Like I almost feel like on shift, I'm almost ready for anything.
Right. Because you're in that mentality.
Yeah,
like you're there to
expecting
work.
Something to happen.
Yeah, and then whereas like if I was just a bystander, I'd probably freak out.
I don't know. You don't have that trained for this.
They're like, aren't you EMT? I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't have my bag.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing too. I think it's because you're equipped. Yeah. Right. And you have what you need. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm terrified of? I'm terrified of coming home from work. So I've clocked out. And driving home and witnessing something. Okay, here's the problem. I'm in uniform still, because I will sometimes just take off my shirt, but most of the time I'm in uniform, right? So I'm in uniform, and I go out. Now I understand that it's confusing for the bystanders, because now I'm showing up, and like whether or not, if some of them saw me get out my personal car, then they would understand. But like for some people, it's like, okay, we have someone here, right? They don't necessarily understand the system, so you're there, you're doing everything that you can, and then. But you can't do anything. Okay. You know what I mean? Unless it's like
like immediate.
Yeah, like CPR maybe. Yeah. Like you could do CPR, right? You could do things that don't require anything else, but you do not have all your equipment on you. So what do you do?
If it's a bad enough accident, I think the most you could do is hold C-spine.
Yeah.
But that's max like if there's one person.
And I've actually personally heard a story where this happened to someone on their way home, and they did their best to help, but there was ultimately like nothing that they could do. And 911, the EMS, like the ambulance hasn't arrived, fire hadn't arrived yet, and people were screaming and throwing things at her, and they were mad at her
because she couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Well, what did they expect her to do?
I think I cannot speak for why these bystanders acted the way they did. And I don't think that's okay. And I think I really wanted to highlight that today is EMS professionals do what they can do. We are not God, right? I think a lot of times, a lot of us are scared of being filmed too. When we get on scene, sometimes people are standing around filming everything, and then you get picked apart on the internet. But you have to understand that, first of all, it's a video of a small portion of it. you do not understand the protocols that are in place for certain things. Like, let's talk about even the comments that people go, well, why aren't they running to the patient? We don't run.
We can't
run. It is not because we don't care. Okay. It's not because it's not urgent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We can't run. Maybe we can walk with urgency, but that's as far as we get, right? We do not want to run around because that is a hazard to us.
Not only that, with all the emotions and adrenaline running like in our system,
right.
If we run, it's going to increase our heart rate.
Exactly. Even more. Yeah. And so I think it's, my point is if you ever see an EMS professional off the clock doing what they can, trust that they're doing their best. Of course, if they're actively punching someone and like doing things like that, okay, that's different. I'm not talking about that. Okay. I'm talking about like you nitpicking certain things that aren't done correctly, right?
Yeah.
Because I've seen so many videos on YouTube of people filming certain calls, and I go to the comments and people are just tearing it apart because they don't understand what our protocols are.
And it's so easy to critique someone seeing it like outside in, like you actually being in that scenario, like you have seconds to make a decision.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes I think I would say though that a lot of times the comments really aren't about like the decisions that they make. It's always the lack of,
they could have done this.
They could have done this, or, well, why aren't they doing this? Or it looks like they're just standing around. It looks like they're blah, blah. No, a lot of the times, like, there's a lot of conversations between, all the players, all the crew members, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the hospital, the base contact, hospital contact, depending on what county this is. There's just a lot going on that, outsiders would never understand. And so I think having a little bit more compassion for what it is that the crews or the EMS professionals are doing, I think is something I really wanted to highlight today. Now that we've, gone into that, do you feel emotionally charged when it comes to like car accident calls or anything related to that because of your own personal experiences?
Emotionally charged as in how?
Does it trigger you a little bit?
When I'm at work, I tend to just try to keep all emotions out.
Like your own personal, right? Okay.
Regardless of the situation, like I have to help. Maybe afterwards I'll have an opinion, but during it,
I would argue that because I feel like when a call does happen, I don't like think of anything. I do what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's like tunnel vision, basically. But then after the call, it'll start hitting me a little bit. I'll be like, oh my God,
that was pretty bad.
Yeah. Like it'll hit me like afterwards. It's like a delayed reaction, which I think is definitely helpful to get the job done.
Yeah.
But I would say one of the things that I fear though is sometimes on the freeway, when you're helping and cars are so like buzzing by.
I hate that.
Okay, I understand like, traffic has to still keep going, but it is terrifying because if you've heard of the cases where, EMS professionals die because a car hits them, crashes into them or whatever. And I think that's definitely like a fear. We wear our helmets and our safety vests, but it really only does so much, right? If a car is coming at you at that speed, like those speeds, and
if somebody's texting, they're not going to see no matter how much lights you have. Yeah, and
I think for me, car accidents are a whole thing because one, it's something that has traumatized me, and I think as a result, I'm always scared of like my loved ones getting in car accidents because you just never know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've heard. I would say a couple years ago, I heard of this incident of this man. I don't know, something was wrong with him mentally. Okay. God knows what, but he was driving his family, like wife, kids. And I guess he had a psychotic break because he deliberately drove on the opposite side of like when you go off ramp. So he drove up the off ramp onto oncoming traffic and just murdered his whole family, basically, because God told him to.
I've heard similar stories like that where they drive off a cliff.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think the story, like the family made it.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, regardless, right? Like I think like, again, like we're just continuously pointing to the fact that cars
dangerous.
It's a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
You are operating a weapon at this point.
Yeah,
right? Not just cars, anything, like any vehicle.
Motorized vehicle.
Yeah, any motorized vehicle is a weapon at the end of the day, right? I'm really, it would be really great to just like teleport one day.
To what?
I don't know how I just jumped to that, but to teleport.
Just get there.
Imagine if we could just teleport. No traffic, no accidents.
Yeah, it'd be perfect.
So I know y'all focus on AI these days, but like, let's get to the teleportation. Because that would really help a lot. Thank you. I don't know how to do it, but I'm sure y'all know how to. Like, if you can create AI, I don't know. Maybe teleportation is a little different though, because it's like,
I don't even know where to start.
I think there's physics involved and just all these other things that I don't understand. I'm over here like, where are the engineers out here? I don't even know which field would probably be best for this.
Science.
Yeah. But not like the health sciences, like the physical sciences.
Bill Nye,
the science guy. Yeah, where's Bill? Come out of retirement and build us teleportation. What was I gonna say? I don't remember. We got distracted by Bill Nye the science guy.
It's all right. But car accidents are crazy, honestly. Yeah. There is like a scary time where I was at a red light and it had just turned green. And I usually wait. I wait like 3 seconds and then I go. Mm-hmm. This was 5 seconds in and a car just zooms right in front of me.
What do you mean, like in front of you?
So
I'm at the going.
He runs the red.
He runs the red.
He runs his red light and he just zooms past me at that last lane. So there's like 2 lanes on each side, right?
Yeah.
I passed the 3. He zoomed past me on the 4th one. I was scared.
Bro, yeah, because if you had gone, you would have been just smacked.
Yeah, if I would have like accelerated as soon as it turned green, I would have been hit. And he was zooming. He was going at least 60.
Dude, I mean, just me and Nate combined, we've had so many close calls. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's many of you out there who have experienced your own personal close calls on the road. Because I get visceral reactions from that. I don't know about y'all, but I get visceral reactions. Like I start like profusely sweating, like my heart rate goes up. I'm like, should I pull over and calm down? Yeah. And then like a lot of times though, like this happens on the freeway and like I feel like pulling over is more dangerous than to just continue driving. So then I just continue driving.
In silence too.
In silence, yeah. And you're just like contemplating
your life.
You're just like, yeah, it's insane. What is your opinion on the current laws on speeding and related crimes?
Like the current laws on speeding.
Like, currently it's like, a fine.
Okay.
Right. And then, or if it's...
Well, I know that if you go above a certain miles per hour...
It's a felony.
It's automatically a felony.
Yeah.
And you get arrested.
Yeah.
I think it's like 120.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's fair. I think...
that's fair.
No, that's fair. I think with parking, like, parking tickets, certain, like I got a ticket for not stopping completely before I turned.
California stop.
I did the California stop. So I was turning right on a red. But I didn't stop completely.
Oh, I didn't know you had to do that.
Okay, me neither.
I thought it was just kind of like a yield.
Like, yeah, you know what I mean? I always thought that like, it was like, I look, right? And then like I go. But I did stop. I just didn't stop completely.
You rolled.
Like I rolled it basically. It was like a slow down and then I went. Yeah. It was like $500.
$500?
It was $500 for that.
And you could turn on that light?
Yeah, you could turn. Yeah, you could turn.
I
didn't make a complete stop is what is said. And yeah.
I'm going to make those stops now.
No, I've been doing
that. Why
has
nobody stopped me?
I mean, I think it depends on the area. Like this was in a certain area in LA that I don't usually drive through. Yeah. So I don't know. I've never been to that area, but I got $500 fine for that.
And he didn't let you get away with it? He didn't give you a warning?
It was a camera.
Oh.
Those because what are you going to argue with? What are you going to argue with those cameras, right? Like those cameras, like it was
like
crazy.
It got you in 4K.
Yeah, literally caught me in 4K. Like they send the ticket with like your picture.
Nice.
Like, and it's just like you like this. Bro, it was like me like this. I was just like straight face with my hands on my steering wheel. I was like,
not a thought in the world.
Yeah, but I didn't. It wasn't like I did it on purpose. Like, I was safe. I looked, I was like, oh, nothing there. Okay, turn right. So yeah. I mean, in that case, I think that's a little bit ridiculous, honestly. However, speeding definitely should. Yeah, if you're going that fast, felony for sure. That's not okay.
Speeding is horrible.
Yeah. We're gonna take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to talk about how you feel about those people who shut down intersections to do donuts.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah. What do they call it? Turnouts? Takeovers. We'll be right back with our conversation on takeovers. And we're back. We're talking about turnouts. I recently saw a video.
Takeovers.
Turnouts are
a good turnout though.
Turnouts are what the firefighters wear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. That's why I was. Gear. Yeah. The turnout gear. Yeah. The yellow, those yellow suits that the firefighters wear. That's turnouts.
Yeah. Go clock out, Sonny.
I gotta clock out. Speaking of separating work from home life. Anyways, I saw this recent video of a takeover. Yeah. And I've never seen one.
Really?
Like in real life.
Oh, okay.
Right. But it was, I've seen it on the internet, but this one was a pretty detailed video of a takeover. And what? Why? Okay, from what I saw,
like was 4K.
Yeah, like it was a really good video of it. Usually, I think the videos I've seen is usually just kind of like the cars, like doing random things in the middle, whatever. But this one was like a full, like it was a panned view of basically what was happening. Oh, really? And I could not believe it because one, there's cars blocking the intersection at like all 4 points, and then you have all these cars just doing donuts or whatever they're doing in the middle, and then like hordes of people
just out on the street, right?
On the street, right? I've also heard of this happening on the freeway.
Yeah.
Okay, why? Like, can you offer any sort of like explanation as to why this happens? Like, why?
No, stupidity. That's all it is. People in the car community that are actually really fond of it, they don't claim those people.
Okay, so they don't claim. Okay,
yeah, no.
It's like I've heard of like car shows. Like that's cool.
Yeah,
like you park in your car, and then everybody goes, "Oh my god, your car's so cool." Whatever. Like what engine? I don't know car stuff. But I get that, right? It's like a little community where you guys can like share and bond over your cars, and that's understandable. Like I fully support that. But for you to take over a street
out of your own greed.
Yeah. Like it's a public space that people drive on like those streets. Like, what are you doing?
And who's to say somebody wasn't on the way to the hospital in an emergency and then they come across that?
Yeah. Like I've always, that's where I was going to go next is like, what if, right? Because we work through the wee hours of the night, like blah, blah, blah. What if, we're going to a call. And what if it's like a serious call? Like not that there was more important calls, but what if it's like a really, really serious call and I can't get through because y'all are doing donuts in the middle? Like, I don't know if that's ever happened, but I'm sure it has, right?
I'm sure it has.
Like, there's no way that it hasn't happened before where an emergency vehicle, like whatever, is trying to get through.
Well, I remember the riots that happened like during the pandemic here in LA. Mm-hmm. I think they were having issues with like ambulances trying to get through those areas because they were trying to get to calls and they wouldn't let them through.
If you guys have actually heard of those scenarios, let us know. We actually put up a Google form for those of you guys who want to share your stories. It's in the link tree and it'll be linked down below. So let us know, or let us know in the comments. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that is insane to me that just happens. I've never personally, like I said, seen it, but I don't even know. What if I was just driving my personal car? Like, what am I supposed to do?
I would, if it was a real emergency, I have a truck. I would go on the sidewalk.
Yeah. Because if I'm thinking about it, it's a 4-point intersection, right? Mm-hmm. And the center divider is an actual center divider. Like you have bushes and stuff, for example. Mm-hmm. What am I supposed to do? U-turn on the same side of the street?
You can't. There's
like, what do I do? Just sit there?
There's nowhere to go.
You know what I mean? Like, I wonder, like, what do you actually do? Like, what do you actually do in that situation? Because I'm like, if I was ever in that situation, I don't know. I think I don't think I would just sit there.
No.
Okay, low key, I would just honestly U-turn on the same side of the street.
What if you have people behind you?
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming this usually happens when there's like no cars on the road, like dead middle of the night, right?
You'd be surprised.
Oh my God.
You would be surprised.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a guerrilla tactic. They just choose a corner, they all go there, and then once it gets burnt out or like the police show up, then they leave.
Huh.
It's weird.
Yeah. I'll never understand the shenanigans. And these are like full grown adults.
Yeah. And there's people that get injured in those.
Yeah.
Like I've seen videos of people doing donuts. Somebody from the crowd walks in there and they get hit.
I actually know someone personally who was in one of these things.
Really?
And let's just say fell off the top of the car and got dragged underneath it.
Personally?
Someone I met and know. I'm not like super close. Yeah, it was a.
Are they
I'm not
okay?
They're okay. There's a lot of like facial reconstruction surgeries.
Can they walk and stuff?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, but that's crazy, no?
That is crazy.
I just, again, a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
I think like I really just want to drill in like it's a weapon and like everybody be careful. Of course, we all make. I've done not so safe things in my personal car.
Think
like
we're all a little bit.
Like we've all done it, right? I'm sure.
Guilty of it.
But it's I think me especially, like I'm doing my best to like I installed one of those car phone holders in my car, so I'm not like holding it like as you know I'm doing things to try to avoid. You know, and I think as I'm getting older, I'm really understanding like how detrimental it can be. And I mean, not to bring up the past, but one of our old personal trainees of ours, so Nate used to be an FTO, field training officer, and we had a trainee, and he was, you know, on his motorcycle and, you know, got in an accident and passed away. You know, it affects people in your lives, and it's really sad to just like, of course I understand that most of these things aren't intentional, but you know, it's good to keep that in mind. And I'm sure every person has some sort of story or experience, whether it's been really close to the heart or not, that I think is something that I really want to talk about, like, or wanted to point out today.
Yeah.
So be safe. Yeah.
Be safe. And it's not just also speeding. It's also texting and driving. Talking on the phone and driving, being intoxicated and driving.
Being sleepy too. And I'm guilty of this a lot. I think it's due to the job, right? Just the lifestyle, the million things I have going on in my life. Like I've definitely been, you know, I've driven before where I'm just so tired, and that's so dangerous.
It is.
Right?
It's worse than being drunk.
Yeah. I remember when I first started doing night shift, you know, I was not used to it. And this was during COVID era. And so we were getting held over a lot. And
getting ran. It was rough.
And so, you know, I would drive home really, really tired, and it was very dangerous. Now that I think about it, you know, so I'm also personally like working on being better, you know, on not driving when I like should not be.
Yeah.
Right.
And then now that we're in the topic of driving, there's something that I really, really want to tell people. Here in California, lane splitting is legal for motorcycles, right? So that's why they're able to go in between the lanes. And I think it's better for us to be sharing the road and move over for them when they're getting close to you, and just like
I thought that was just like common courtesy, like a unspoken rule.
I feel like it is too, but then I also see people in front of me purposely like cut them off and not let them get through because they're in traffic. They should be in traffic too. But no, like I feel like if people buy a motorcycle and they're willing to like overcome those risks or like regardless ride it with those risks, like they should be able to do it safely. Yeah, safely. Yeah.
No, I agree. I think it's one thing to not purposefully move away, but it's one thing to purposely move towards them. Right? If you're just driving as you drive, you know, that's good with me.
You're minding your own business.
Right. Yeah.
That's another thing though. Sometimes motorcycles, you can't be constantly looking at your side mirror.
You can't see them sometimes.
Yeah, because they're going like 30 miles an hour while traffic's going like 10. That's also very dangerous for motorcycles.
Yeah, 100%. I think motorcycles in general have been we've experienced what, not us personally, but like, people in our lives. And I think it's crazy. I think here too, it's different. I know in Taiwan, right? Like motorcycles or mopeds are very prevalent because of that's just the vehicle of transportation of choice because of just the tiny roads and just the amount of people and the lack of parking, right?
And it's more fuel efficient.
Yeah, it is more fuel efficient. Like exactly. So I think, and space efficient, like you don't need a whole like parking space. But I think the culture there around mopeds / motorcycles it's a lot different because I think here, people don't get motorcycles for transportation.
They get them for fun.
They get it for fun or like it's cool or there's like a lot of million other reasons. But in Taiwan or certain other Asian countries, I know that it's just like the best form of transportation sometimes, like other than public transportation, because cars just really aren't ideal a lot of times. And people aren't going really fast.
Yeah.
You'll see, I've been on roads where it's hordes of these mopeds and motorcycles, but they're all going like 20 and they're just like, kind of like zooming and like, and if anyone was to ever hit anything, it would just kind of, they was like, pop, like,
oh no.
Yeah. Like it's nothing ever so serious. Right. So I think especially here, there's this culture around motorcycles and I get it. It's cool. Right. Like, whatever. But I like the fact that you brought that up, the lane split. I didn't really like think about that.
Yeah.
And like sometimes too, like with people like music playing or like I'm listening to a podcast or whatever, I don't really hear, I don't hear them coming by. So yeah, I guess overall the moral of today is be mindful when you drive. We all could be better at it. We're not like Nate and I are, we have our own things that we're working on. But I think overall as a community, as a society, I would say that we would benefit a lot more of just mindfulness.
Driving with due regard.
Yeah, driving with due regard. Exactly.
I've been teaching SEVO.
Yeah, SEVO.
Coach the emergency vehicle
that
operator.
goes for EMS professionals. And just because we're qualified or whatnot to operate an ambulance or fire trucks or whatever it is, it does not mean that everybody in the field does that too. And I would say that that's really quite important to drive with due regard, no matter where you are and who you are and what you're driving.
Yeah.
And I guess on that note, that's it for today's episode. Be safe out there. Please don't die on me and Nate.
I love you.
Please, if you get motorcycles, if you get like fancy cool cars, be safe.
And let me drive it.
No. Safely. And yeah, that's it for today's story. Bye.
Bye. Hey there. Thanks for watching our podcast. If you liked it, please like and subscribe and comment any questions you have for us to answer in future episodes. Thank you for listening to Egg and Bean Podcast.